In the heart of Manhattan, at 3:47 a.m., Sarah Chun stares at her phone screen for the 14th time in 2 hours. The blue light burns her retinas as she scrolls through anxiety-inducing news feeds, her cortisol levels spiking with each swipe. Around her, 8 million people lie awake in similar torment, victims of what sleep scientists now call the greatest health crisis of the modern age. We have built a civilization that wages war against sleep. Our cities never sleep, our screens never dim, and our minds never rest. The average urbanite takes 43 minutes to fall asleep, wakes up 2.3 times per night, and spends more time lying awake in bed than many of our ancestors spent traveling between continents. Yet 500 miles south of the Mediterranean, where the Sahara stretches endlessly under star-drunk skies, a different story unfolds each night. Here, among the shifting dunes and ancient caravan routes, the last nomadic tribes practice an art form we have forgotten, the sacred ritual of perfect sleep. They possess no sleep clinics, no melatonin supplements, no white noise machines. Instead, they carry in their bodies and traditions the blueprint for humanity's most natural and restorative rest. What if everything we think we know about sleep is wrong? What if the solution to our sleepless epidemic lies not in the latest technology or pharmaceutical breakthrough, but in the wisdom of people who have spent 3,000 years perfecting the art of sleeping under the stars? The nomads of the Sahara didn't just survive the world's most challenging environment, they thrived in it. And their secret weapon wasn't superior technology or abundant resources. It was their profound understanding of how human beings are meant to sleep, gained through millennia of living in perfect harmony with the rhythms that govern all life on Earth. Tonight, as another 40% of Americans will lie awake battling insomnia, the desert people will settle into sleep so deep and restorative that they will wake before dawn feeling more refreshed than most city dwellers feel after 12 hours in bed. This is their story. This is the sleep we have lost. This is the rest we can reclaim. The Sahara is not silent. Those who have never slept beneath its vast dome imagine it as a place of oppressive quiet. But the desert speaks in whispers that urban ears have forgotten how to hear. The wind carries messages across the dunes. The sand shifts with ancient songs, and the very air itself pulses with the rhythm of a world unmarked by artificial time. For over 3 millennia, nomadic tribes have called this seemingly barren landscape home. The Tuareg, the noble blue people, whose indigo robes stain their skin the color of twilight. The Amazigh, the original inhabitants whose name means free people, keepers of songs older than written history. The Bedouins, the desert's poets and navigators, who read stories in star patterns and find water by the smell of morning air. These were not people merely surviving in a hostile environment. They were a civilization that had discovered something remarkable: how to live in complete synchronization with the natural world's most fundamental rhythms. Their entire existence revolved around a dance with light and darkness that modern life has violently disrupted. The desert taught them that sleep was not something to be conquered or optimized, but something to be received like a gift. Each sunset was not the end of productivity, but the beginning of restoration. Each dawn was not a harsh alarm, but a gentle invitation back to consciousness. They lived by what scientists now call our circadian rhythms, but they knew them simply as the breathing of the world. Their nomadic lifestyle meant they carried no excess, owned nothing that wasn't essential, and trusted their body's wisdom above all external authority. They had no concept of sleep hygiene because their entire existence was sleep hygiene. No need for sleep schedules because they lived within the schedule written in the sky. No anxiety about insomnia because sleep came as naturally as breathing. The desert stripped away everything unnecessary and revealed the essential truth about human rest. We are diurnal creatures designed to sleep deeply when the sun disappears and wake gradually as it returns. The nomads didn't fight this truth. They built their entire civilization around honoring it. In the Sahara, there were no streetlights to confuse the pineal gland, no screens to suppress melatonin production, no climate control to interfere with the body's natural temperature regulation. There was only the vast, honest relationship between human biology and the cosmic rhythms that have governed life for millions of years. The nomads knew secrets about sleep that we are only now rediscovering in our laboratory secrets, written not in research papers, but in the very cells of their bodies, passed down through generations of perfect rest. Dr. Matthew Walker, one of the world's leading sleep researchers, made a startling discovery while studying the sleep patterns of indigenous populations. Those living closest to natural light-dark cycles experienced sleep so profound and restorative that it defied everything he thought he knew about human sleep architecture. Their deep sleep phases lasted longer, their REM cycles were more organized, and their overall sleep efficiency reached levels that modern medicine considered impossible. "We've been studying sleep wrong," Walker confided to colleagues after reviewing data from desert populations. "We've been trying to understand diseased sleep in artificial environments, when we should have been studying healthy sleep in natural ones." The nomads of the Sahara represent the closest thing to a control group for human sleep people living exactly as our species evolved to live for 200,000 years before cities, electricity, and digital screens disrupted our biological programming. Their sleep patterns reveal what scientists call our ancestral sleep architecture, the blueprint for rest that still exists in our DNA, waiting to be awakened. Modern sleep studies show that exposure to natural light patterns triggers a cascade of biological processes that urban dwellers rarely experience. The gradual dimming of desert twilight allows melatonin production to rise slowly and naturally, creating what researchers term optimal sleep pressure. The absence of artificial light after sunset means melatonin levels peak at precisely the right time, leading to sleep initiation that takes minutes rather than hours. But the desert's gift to sleep goes far deeper than light regulation. The extreme temperature variations that make the Sahara so challenging during the day become its greatest asset for rest. As the sun disappears, temperatures can drop 40 degrees Fahrenheit, triggering the body's natural thermoregulatory response that signals deep sleep. Dr. Craig Heller's research at Stanford University confirms what the nomads have always known. The body's core temperature must drop by 1 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. In climate-controlled bedrooms, this natural cooling is disrupted. In the desert, it happens with mathematical precision every single night. The nomad's sleep also benefits from what chronobiologists call natural blue light therapy. The desert sky provides the full spectrum of light wavelengths that regulate circadian rhythms, including the specific blue light frequencies that suppress melatonin during the day and allow its natural rise at night. This creates sleep-wake cycles so precisely calibrated that the nomads wake naturally at the optimal time in their sleep cycles, experiencing what researchers call perfect sleep termination. Perhaps most remarkably, recent studies of traditional desert populations show they experience almost none of the sleep disorders that plague modern societies. No sleep apnea from processed foods and urban air pollution. No restless leg syndrome from sedentary lifestyles. No chronic insomnia from anxiety and overstimulation. Their sleep is what human sleep looked like before we began fighting our own biology. The desert nomads achieved something that modern sleep medicine spends billions trying to replicate. They lived in perfect harmony with their circadian biology, creating conditions for sleep so restorative that they needed fewer hours of rest than sedentary populations, while maintaining higher levels of physical and cognitive performance. The nomads' mastery of sleep extended far beyond simply lying down when darkness fell. They had constructed an entire environmental and cultural system designed to optimize every aspect of rest, from the microenvironment of their sleeping spaces to the macro rhythms of their daily lives. Every evening, as the caravan settled for the night, the positioning of sleeping areas followed principles that modern sleep architects are only beginning to understand. Sleeping spots were chosen not randomly, but according to subtle environmental factors that influenced sleep quality. Wind patterns that provided natural air circulation, ground composition that offered optimal temperature regulation, and orientation to celestial bodies that aligned with circadian biology. The nomads instinctively avoided what sleep researchers now call sleep disruptors, areas where natural electromagnetic fields were disturbed, where air circulation was poor, or where morning light would strike too abruptly. They selected sleeping locations that provided what Dr. Eva Detko calls environmental sleep optimization, natural conditions that enhance rather than fight the body's sleep mechanisms. As twilight approached, the nomads engaged in what modern sleep hygiene experts now recognize as perfect sleep preparation protocols. But these weren't clinical routines. They were sacred rituals passed down through generations, designed to signal to the body and mind that the time for rest was approaching. The evening activities naturally decreased in intensity as darkness fell. No artificial lights extended the day beyond its natural boundaries. No stimulating activities continued past sunset. Instead, the camp settled into quiet activities that supported sleep preparation, gentle conversation, soft music, the preparation of evening teas made from desert plants that modern pharmacology has confirmed contain natural sleep-promoting compounds. The nomads' knowledge of sleep-supporting botanicals rivals that of modern pharmacologists. They carried with them a pharmacy of desert plants whose sleep-enhancing properties science is only now validating. Wild lavender varieties that grow in Saharan oases contain higher concentrations of linalool and linaloyl acetate compounds that modern sleep research confirms reduce anxiety and promote deep sleep. The evening tea ritual incorporated plants like wild chamomile, desert sage, and various mint species that contain natural compounds similar to modern sleep aids, but without the dependency risks or morning grogginess. These plants didn't force sleep, they simply removed the barriers to natural rest. The nomads had developed sophisticated techniques for managing their sleeping. Environment temperature techniques that modern sleep scientists recognize as optimal for different sleep stages. Their sleeping arrangements took advantage of the desert's natural temperature regulation, using materials and positioning that enhanced rather than fought the body's thermoregulatory needs. During the cooling hours of early evening, sleeping areas were prepared to capture and retain just enough warmth for comfort as temperatures dropped. By dawn, when the body naturally begins to warm in preparation for waking, the sleeping environment had naturally adjusted to support this biological transition. Perhaps most importantly, the nomads understood that sleep is not an individual activity, but a communal one. The caravan slept together not just for protection, but because human beings are designed to sleep in groups. The subtle sounds of others breathing, a sense of security from community presence, and the synchronized circadian rhythms of the group all contributed to deeper, more restorative sleep. Modern sleep labs confirm what the nomads always knew. Humans sleep more deeply when they feel safe and connected. The isolation of individual bedrooms and separate houses disrupts millions of years of evolutionary programming that associates solitary sleep with danger. The sun hangs low over the dunes like a dying ember when Tariq begins his evening preparations. At 67, his weathered face maps decades of desert crossings, but his movements carry the fluid grace of someone whose body has never forgotten its natural rhythms. He is the caravan's guide, its memory keeper, and its master of the subtle arts that keep 30 souls alive in the world's most unforgiving landscape. But as the day's heat begins to release its grip on the sand, Tariq transforms from navigator to sleep shepherd, a role just as crucial to the caravan's survival. For he knows what urban dwellers have forgotten, that the quality of tonight's rest determines tomorrow's resilience. And in the desert, poor sleep can mean death. Tariq moves through the camp with deliberate purpose, but not urgency. Urgency is the enemy of good sleep. He learned from his grandfather, who learned from his grandfather's grandfather. Instead, Tariq embodies what sleep researchers call parasympathetic activation, a calm, steady state that prepares the nervous system for deep rest. His first task is reading the desert's evening messages. He tastes the air, feeling for the subtle shift in humidity that signals the night's temperature drop. He observes the wind patterns, noting how they will circulate air through the sleeping areas. He watches the western horizon, calculating how quickly darkness will fall and how this will affect the group's melatonin production. These aren't conscious scientific calculations. They are intuitive assessments, burned into his DNA through generations of desert living. Tariq's body contains the accumulated wisdom of countless ancestors who survived because they understood the delicate relationship between environment and sleep. As the camp settles into evening routines, Tariq oversees the preparation of the evening tea. Tonight, like every night, he selects from the small leather pouches that contain the desert's pharmacy. A pinch of wild lavender gathered from a hidden oasis 3 weeks ago. Leaves from a sage bush found growing in the shadow of ancient rocks. A fragment of root whose Arabic name translates to the sleep bringer. The tea brewing is itself a meditation, a slowing down that signals to every cell in his body that the active day is ending. Tariq has never heard of cortisol or adrenaline, but he knows intimately the feeling of these stress hormones leaving his system as he performs this nightly ritual. The warmth of the tea, the familiar aromas, the repetitive motions all serve to activate what modern medicine calls the relaxation response. As full darkness arrives with the desert's startling suddenness, Tariq makes his final rounds. He checks that sleeping areas face away from tomorrow's sunrise or remain open to the night's cooling breezes. He ensures that each family's sleeping space provides both privacy and connection to the group. He listens to the subtle sounds of the desert night, distinguishing between the harmless whispers of wind and sand and the more urgent signals that might require attention. Finally, Tariq settles into his own sleeping area, a simple arrangement that would horrify anyone accustomed to modern bedroom luxuries. A worn carpet laid on the sand, a thin blanket woven by his wife's grandmother, a small pillow filled with aromatic desert grasses. No mattress, no temperature control, no blackout curtains or white noise machines. Yet as Tariq's head touches this simple pillow, something magical occurs. His breathing immediately deepens, his heart rate slows, and his mind releases the day's concerns with the ease of sand sliding off fabric. Within minutes, not the 43 minutes that plague modern sleepers, Tariq has entered the deep, restorative sleep that will rebuild his body and mind for tomorrow's challenges. Above him, the Sahara's vast dome of stars provides the only light. Their ancient photons triggering the precise melatonin production that modern circadian biologists spend years studying. Around him, the natural sounds of the desert create the perfect acoustic environment for sleep, not silence, which humans find disturbing, but the subtle, consistent background that signals safety to the evolved brain. Tariq sleeps as his ancestors slept for 3 millennia, not fighting his biology, but surrendering to it, not optimizing his rest, but receiving it as the gift it was always meant to be. 4 hours before sunrise, when the desert holds its deepest silence, Layla's eyes open without alarm or confusion. At 23, she represents the newest generation of nomadic wisdom, but her body carries the same ancient programming that has awakened her people at the optimal moment for 3,000 years. She does not wake because she has slept too little or too much. She wakes because her sleep cycles have completed their perfect dance, leaving her refreshed and alert in the way that modern sleep medicine desperately tries to replicate. Leela's awakening demonstrates what researchers call natural sleep termination, waking at the end of a complete sleep cycle rather than being jolted awake by artificial alarms. Her brain has cycled through its required phases of deep sleep and REM sleep with mathematical precision, guided by the desert's natural light and temperature cues. She experiences none of the grogginess or disorientation that plague people awakened by alarm clocks, because her body has chosen this moment to return to consciousness. As a storyteller and herbalist, Layla serves as the caravan's keeper of sleep wisdom, though she would never use such formal terms. She simply knows, with the certainty of inherited knowledge, how to help others find the rest that the desert so freely offers. Her grandmother taught her that sleep is not something humans do, but something they allow a fundamental distinction that modern sleep medicine is only beginning to understand. In the pre-dawn darkness, Layla performs a ritual that would fascinate chronobiologists. She slowly exposes herself to the approaching dawn light, not the harsh, sudden illumination of electric switches, but the gradual brightening that allows her circadian system to adjust naturally. She understands, without knowing the scientific terminology, that this gentle light exposure helps regulate the melatonin suppression that will keep her alert throughout the coming day. Layla's morning routine illustrates another principle that urban dwellers have forgotten. The transition from sleep to wakefulness should be gradual, not violent. She moves slowly at first, allowing her blood pressure to rise naturally, her core temperature to adjust, and her cognitive systems to come online at their own pace. This prevents the stress response that occurs when people are shocked awake by alarms and immediately thrust into high-demand activities. As the storyteller, Layla carries in her memory hundreds of tales about sleep stories that encode practical wisdom about rest and dreams. Modern researchers are discovering that these traditional stories contain remarkably accurate information about sleep physiology, dream function, and the relationship between rest and health. The nomads embedded their sleep wisdom in narrative form, ensuring it would be remembered and passed down even when the scientific explanations were not understood. One of Layla's favorite stories tells of a young warrior who lost his ability to sleep after witnessing terrible violence. The tale describes his journey to reclaim rest, encountering helpful spirits who teach him breathing techniques, medicinal plants, and rituals for calming the mind. Modern trauma therapists recognize this story as an accurate description of PTSD treatment, including elements now used in evidence-based therapies for sleep disorders. But Layla's most important role is as a living example of what healthy sleep looks like. She has never experienced insomnia, sleep anxiety, or the dozens of sleep disorders that affect urban populations. Her sleep is so naturally regulated that she cannot imagine the concept of trying to sleep for her. Sleep simply arrives when darkness falls, just as hunger arrives when the body needs food. As the first light touches the eastern horizon, Layla begins to move through the camp, gently waking others not with words or touch, but with her quiet presence and the subtle sounds of morning preparation. She understands that the way people wake affects their entire day's energy and mood. Her gentle approach allows each person to emerge from sleep naturally, maintaining the restorative benefits of their night's rest. Watching Layla wake and begin her day, an observer might notice something remarkable. She appears more rested after 6 hours of desert sleep than most city dwellers feel after 10 hours in climate-controlled bedrooms. Her eyes are clear, Her movements are fluid, and her mind is sharp, the hallmarks of truly restorative sleep. This is not exceptional among her people. Every member of the caravan demonstrates the same natural sleep mastery, the same easy relationship with rest and waking. They are living proof that human beings can sleep beautifully when they stop fighting their biology and start honoring the wisdom written in their cells. 3,000 miles from the Sahara's perfect sleep laboratory, Dr. Sarah Chun, the same woman we encountered staring at her phone at 3:47 a.m., sits in her Manhattan sleep clinic, prescribing her 14th sleep medication of the day. The irony is not lost on her. She is a sleep specialist who hasn't slept well in months, helping patients with insomnia while battling her own sleepless nights. Dr. Chun represents the tragic paradox of modern sleep medicine. We have more knowledge about sleep than any civilization in history, yet we sleep worse than almost any population ever studied. We have identified the neurochemicals, mapped the brain waves, and cataloged every phase of the sleep cycle, but we have forgotten how to actually sleep. Her patient files tell the story of our civilizational sleep crisis. Executives who haven't slept more than 5 consecutive hours in years. Teenagers whose circadian rhythms are so disrupted they fall asleep in math class and lie awake until dawn. Middle-aged parents who treat insomnia with alcohol and wake up more exhausted than when they went to bed. The statistics are staggering. 68% of Americans struggle with sleep at least once a week. 40% of adults report symptoms of insomnia. The economic cost of sleep deprivation exceeds $400 billion annually in the United States alone. We have created the first civilization in human history where good sleep is considered a luxury rather than a biological necessity. The fundamental problem is simple. We have declared war against one of the most basic requirements for human health. Every aspect of modern urban life is designed to fight the natural cycles that regulated sleep from millions of years of human evolution. We have created a 24/7 culture that treats darkness as an inconvenience to be overcome rather than a biological signal to be honored. The average American is exposed to artificial light until moments before attempting sleep. Smartphones, tablets, computers, televisions, and LED lighting flood our visual cortex with the exact wavelengths of blue light that tell our brains it's noon rather than midnight. We have essentially convinced our circadian systems that we live in a world of perpetual daylight. The consequences extend far beyond feeling tired. Chronic sleep disruption has been linked to obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, depression, anxiety, immune dysfunction, and accelerated aging. The World Health Organization has classified shift work that disrupts circadian rhythms as a probable carcinogen. We are literally killing ourselves with light. Modern buildings compound the problem by eliminating the natural temperature variations that trigger sleep. Central heating and air conditioning maintain constant temperatures that prevent the body's natural cooling response. The drop in core temperature that signals the brain to initiate sleep. We have created thermal environments that actively work against our sleep physiology. Research shows that the optimal sleeping temperature for most people is between 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet many bedrooms are kept warmer for comfort. Climate-controlled environments also eliminate the natural temperature cycling that supports different sleep stages throughout the night. The nomad sleeping arrangements work with these natural temperature rhythms rather than against them. Perhaps most tragically, we have isolated sleep from its natural social context. For millions of years, humans slept in groups for protection and comfort. The sounds of others breathing, the sense of community presence, and the synchronized circadian rhythms of the tribe all contributed to deeper, more secure rest. Modern Western culture has created the bizarre expectation that healthy adults should sleep alone in separate rooms, often in separate buildings from other humans. This isolation triggers ancient survival mechanisms that keep the brain partially alert for danger, preventing the deep rest that only comes from feeling truly safe. The modern world has also created unprecedented levels of anxiety and stress that make sleep almost impossible. The constant stream of news, social media, work pressures, and financial concerns creates a state of chronic arousal that is incompatible with rest. Our brains are bombarded with more information in a single day than our ancestors processed in months. Unlike the nomads, whose evening routines naturally transition them from activity to rest, modern people often go directly from high-stress activities to bed, expecting their nervous systems to instantly downshift. It would be like driving a car at highway speeds and then slamming on the brakes. The system needs time to gradually slow down. Rather than addressing the root causes of our sleep crisis, we have turned to pharmaceutical solutions that often create more problems than they solve. Sleep medications can provide temporary relief, but typically disrupt natural sleep architecture, create dependency, and leave users feeling groggy and unrefreshed. The global sleep aids market is projected to reach $40 billion by 2025, a staggering figure that represents how much money we're willing to spend to chemically override technology rather than simply honoring our natural sleep needs. Meanwhile, the nomads achieve superior sleep quality with nothing more than darkness, natural temperature regulation, and respect for their circadian rhythms. The cruel irony is that the solutions to our sleep crisis are not complex or expensive. They don't require new technology or breakthrough medications. They simply require us to stop fighting the biological wisdom that guided human sleep for thousands of generations and start creating conditions that support rather than sabotage our natural rest. Under the vast canopy of the Sahara night, Tariq sits with his back against a weathered camel saddle, his eyes fixed on the constellations that have guided his people across the desert for centuries. To a casual observer, he might appear to be simply stargazing, a pleasant way to pass time before sleep. But Tariq is engaged in something far more profound. He is synchronizing his internal, biological clock with the cosmic rhythms that regulate all life on Earth. This nightly communion with celestial light represents one of the nomads' most sophisticated sleep practices, one that modern chronobiology is only beginning to understand. The specific wavelengths of starlight, moonlight, and the gradual transition from twilight to full darkness provide precise cues that optimize melatonin production and circadian rhythm regulation. What happens in Tariq's brain during these evening hours would astonish sleep researchers. As the last traces of sunlight fade, his pineal gland begins producing melatonin at levels that urban dwellers rarely achieve. But this is not the sudden, artificial spike that comes from taking melatonin supplements. It is the gradual, natural rise that evolution designed to prepare the human body for deep, restorative sleep. The desert's complete absence of artificial light allows this process to unfold with perfect precision. There are no streetlights to confuse Tuareg's circadian system, no indoor lighting to delay melatonin release, no screens to flood his retinas with sleep-disrupting blue light. His visual cortex receives only the gentle, sleep-promoting wavelengths of natural nighttime illumination. Modern studies using advanced brain imaging technology show that people living in natural light environments experience melatonin production patterns that are dramatically different from urban populations. Their melatonin levels rise earlier, peak higher, and decline more gradually in the morning, creating sleep-wake cycles that are far more stable and restorative. As Tuareg settles into his sleeping area, his body begins a complex thermoregulatory dance that urban environments rarely allow. The desert's dramatic nighttime cooling triggers a cascade of physiological changes that prepare him for sleep. His core body temperature begins to drop, his blood vessels dilate to release heat, and his brain receives the clear signal that sleep time has arrived. This natural cooling process is one of the most important triggers for deep sleep, but modern bedrooms interfere with it in multiple ways. Central heating systems maintain constant temperatures that prevent the necessary cooling response. Synthetic bedding materials trap heat rather than allowing natural temperature regulation. Even pajamas and sleepwear can interfere with the body's ability to thermoregulate during sleep. Tuareg's simple sleeping arrangement of thin blanket on natural materials allows his body to work with the desert's temperature patterns rather than against them. As the night progresses and temperatures continue to drop, his sleep naturally deepens. By dawn, when the desert begins its subtle warming, his body temperature starts to rise, gently bringing him back to consciousness. The sounds of Tuareg's sleeping environment represent another crucial element of optimal sleep that modern life has disrupted. The desert at night is not silent. It whispers with wind patterns, the subtle movement of sand, and the distant calls of nocturnal animals. But these sounds are what acoustics experts call pink noise consistent, gentle background sounds that actually enhance sleep quality rather than disrupting it. Modern urban environments assault sleepers with unpredictable, jarring noises. Traffic, sirens, air conditioning units, neighbors, and electronic devices. These sudden, irregular sounds trigger micro-awakenings throughout the night, preventing the deep sleep that is essential for physical and mental restoration. The nomads' group sleeping arrangements also create an acoustic environment that promotes rest. The subtle sounds of others, breathing, shifting, and dreaming provide what evolutionary psychologists call safety signals auditory, cues that tell the ancient brain that all is well and deep sleep is safe. Perhaps most remarkably, recent research suggests that natural nighttime light exposure, the gentle illumination from stars and moon, may actually support optimal sleep chemistry in ways that complete darkness does not. The human visual system evolved under natural nighttime conditions, not in the pitch-black environments that modern bedrooms attempt to create. Tuareg's nightly exposure to natural celestial light appears to fine-tune his circadian rhythms with extraordinary precision. His sleep-wake cycles align not just with the local sunrise and sunset, but with seasonal variations in day length, moon phases, and even subtle changes in starlight patterns. This creates a level of circadian stability that urban populations rarely experience. Studies of traditional populations living under natural lighting conditions show that their circadian rhythms are more robust, their sleep timing more consistent, and their overall sleep quality higher than people living in artificially lit environments. They seem to possess an internal clock that is more precisely calibrated to the rhythms of the natural world. Every night, the Sahara becomes the world's most sophisticated sleep laboratory, running experiments in optimal human rest that no modern facility can replicate. The desert provides perfect darkness at the right time, natural temperature regulation, acoustic environments that support rather than disrupt sleep, and the complete absence of the artificial stimuli that plague urban sleepers. The nomads don't need to understand the science of circadian biology, melatonin production, or thermoregulation. They simply live within the conditions that allow these systems to function as evolution designed them to function. Their sleep is not optimized through technology or intervention. It is optimized through alignment with the natural forces that shaped human biology over millions of years. As Tuareg drifts into sleep under the star-bright sky, his body and brain enter states of restoration that sleep clinics spend fortunes trying to achieve artificially. His sleep demonstrates something profound. When we stop fighting our biology and start honoring the wisdom written in our cells, perfect rest becomes not a goal to achieve, but a gift to receive. In sleep laboratories around the world, researchers studying desert populations have made discoveries that challenge everything modern medicine thought it knew about human sleep architecture. Dr. Nathaniel Kleitman, the pioneer of sleep research, once observed that indigenous populations demonstrated sleep patterns so fundamentally different from urban subjects that they appeared to represent an entirely different species of human rest. The nomads of the Sahara sleep differently at the most basic neurological level. Their brain waves during sleep show patterns that researchers term optimal sleep architecture, extended periods of deep, slow-wave sleep, perfectly timed REM cycles, and transitions between sleep stages that occur with mathematical precision. Most remarkably, their sleep demonstrates a phenomenon that modern sleep medicine considered impossible. It actually becomes more efficient and restorative as they age. Urban adults typically experience a dramatic decline in deep sleep as they age, losing up to 80% of their slow-wave sleep by age 70. This loss contributes to memory problems, immune dysfunction, and the general decline associated with aging. But the nomads maintain deep sleep levels throughout their lives that exceed those of healthy young adults in developed countries. Dr. Eileen Leary's groundbreaking research on traditional populations revealed that this preservation of deep sleep appears to be directly related to natural light exposure and circadian rhythm stability. The nomad's consistent daily rhythms, waking with sunrise, experiencing full-spectrum daylight, and sleeping in complete darkness, maintain the neurological conditions necessary for deep, restorative sleep throughout the lifespan. Brain imaging studies show that during deep sleep, the nomad's brains undergo cleaning processes that are far more efficient than those observed in urban populations. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste disposal mechanism that operates primarily during deep sleep, functions at optimal levels, clearing away the metabolic toxins that accumulate during waking hours. This enhanced brain cleaning may explain why traditional desert populations show remarkably low rates of neurodegenerative diseases. Their nightly brain maintenance is so thorough that the protein tangles and plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease rarely have the opportunity to accumulate. A nomad's REM sleep demonstrates another fascinating divergence from modern sleep patterns. While urban populations often experience fragmented, anxiety-filled REM periods that reflect the stress and overstimulation of modern life, the desert people's REM sleep is characterized by longer, more stable periods of dream activity. Their dreams, according to anthropological studies, serve crucial psychological functions that modern life has disrupted. Rather than processing the random anxiety and information overload that characterizes urban dreams, nomadic dreams appear to integrate daily experiences, solve practical problems, and maintain emotional balance. The content of their dreams reflects their deep connection to natural rhythms and practical survival skills. They dream of weather patterns, animal behavior, navigation challenges, and social relationships, dreams that enhance their waking abilities rather than simply processing psychological noise. The nomad's sleep creates hormonal cascades that urban dwellers rarely experience. Their extended periods of deep sleep trigger optimal release of growth hormone, which repairs tissues, builds muscle, and maintains metabolic health throughout life. Their stable circadian rhythms maintain healthy cortisol patterns, high in the morning for energy and alertness, low at night for rest and restoration. Perhaps most importantly, their natural sleep patterns support optimal insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism. While urban populations often develop diabetes and metabolic dysfunction, partly due to disrupted sleep, the nomads maintain stable blood sugar and healthy metabolism well into advanced age. Their sleep also supports reproductive health in ways that modern life disrupts. Women's menstrual cycles align naturally with lunar cycles when artificial light doesn't interfere with hormonal signals. Men maintain healthy testosterone production patterns that depend on adequate deep sleep. The nomad's sleep supports memory formation and retention in ways that modern sleep rarely achieves. Their ability to navigate vast, featureless landscapes relies on spatial memory systems that are consolidated and enhanced during sleep. They can remember the locations of water sources, safe passages, and seasonal patterns across thousands of square miles of desert. This extraordinary spatial memory appears to be directly related to their sleep quality. During REM sleep, the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, replays and consolidates the day's navigational experiences, creating detailed mental maps that are far more accurate than GPS systems. Their sleep also supports what neuroscientists call procedural memory, the skills and abilities that become automatic through practice. The nomads' riding, tracking, weather prediction, and survival skills are all enhanced and refined during sleep in ways that modern, sleep-deprived populations cannot achieve. Perhaps most remarkably, the nomads' sleep patterns create immune function that surpasses anything achieved through modern medicine. Their deep, restorative sleep triggers the production of immune cells, antibodies, and inflammatory regulators that keep them healthy in one of the world's most challenging environments. Studies of traditional populations show that optimal sleep architecture, the kind the nomads achieve naturally, can increase vaccine effectiveness by up to 300%. Their immune systems respond to threats with precision and power that sleep-deprived urban populations cannot match. During their extended deep sleep phases, optimal levels of interleukin-1 and tumor necrosis, factor immune signaling molecules that coordinate the body's defense systems. Their sleep essentially serves as a nightly immune system training session, preparing their bodies to handle whatever challenges the desert might present. The most profound discovery about nomadic sleep may be its relationship to longevity and healthy aging. While developed nations struggle with epidemics of age-related diseases, traditional desert populations maintain physical and cognitive function well into their 80s and 90s. This exceptional aging appears to be directly related to sleep quality. The nomads' nightly restoration processes are so efficient that they experience what researchers call compressed morbidity. They remain healthy and functional for most of their lives, with illness and decline compressed into a very short period at the end. Their sleep patterns maintain telomere length, the cellular markers of biological age, at levels that suggest their bodies age more slowly at the molecular level. They represent living proof that optimal sleep is not just about feeling rested, but about maintaining the cellular processes that determine how we age and how long we live. As the afternoon sun begins its descent toward the western dunes, Layla moves through the camp with the quiet purposefulness that marks all nomadic activities. But she is not preparing for another ordinary evening. She is orchestrating a symphony of sleep, preparation that spans hours before anyone's head touches a pillow. The nomads understand something that modern culture has forgotten. Great sleep begins long before bedtime. For Layla's people, the transition from day to night is not abrupt but ceremonial. There is no sudden shift from bright artificial lighting to darkness, no jarring change from high-energy activities to attempting sleep. Instead, the entire community participates in a gradual downshifting that honors the body's need for transition time. As the sun moves lower, activities naturally become quieter and more contemplative. The day's physical work gives way to gentler tasks, mending equipment, preparing simple foods, sharing stories, and tending to the herbal preparations that will ease the night's rest. This transition period, which modern chronobiologists now recognize as crucial for healthy sleep, unfolds organically within the nomadic rhythm. Layla's own preparation begins with what she calls reading the evening wind. She steps away from the camp's activities and stands quietly, feeling how the desert's energy shifts as day moves toward night. This is not mystical practice, but practical neuroscience. She is allowing her nervous system to register the environmental changes that signal the approach of rest time. As the camp's herbalist, Layla maintains the ancient knowledge of desert plants that support sleep, natural pharmacy that rivals modern sleep aids without their harmful side effects. Her evening routine includes preparing teas and aromatics that work with the body's own sleep chemistry rather than overriding it. Tonight, she selects wild lavender gathered from a hidden oasis, its concentration of linalool higher than cultivated varieties. She adds leaves from the desert sage that grows in rock crevices, rich in compounds that reduce anxiety and promote relaxation. A fragment of root from the night flower plant provides natural melatonin precursors that support the body's own hormone production. But Layla's herbal knowledge extends beyond simply brewing teas. She understands which plants should be used fresh versus dried, how different preparation methods extract different compounds, and how individual constitutions require different herbal support. Her grandmother taught her that the desert provides everything needed for perfect sleep. One need only know how to ask. The evening tea ritual itself serves multiple functions. The warm liquid raises core body temperature slightly, setting up the temperature drop that will trigger sleep. The familiar aromas signal to the brain that rest time is approaching. The act of sitting quietly and sipping mindfully activates the parasympathetic nervous system, beginning the physiological shift toward sleep readiness. While the tea steeps, Layla participates in the camp's most crucial sleep preparation, selecting and arranging the night's sleeping areas. This is not casual process, but sophisticated environmental design based on millennia of accumulated wisdom about how physical space affects sleep quality. The nomads consider multiple factors when arranging their rest spaces. Wind patterns that will provide natural air circulation, ground composition that offers optimal temperature regulation, protection from potential weather changes, and orientation that aligns with both safety needs and circadian biology. Layla's sleeping area is positioned to catch the cooling evening breezes, but remain protected from the stronger winds that sometimes arise before dawn. Her sleeping materials are arranged to take advantage of the ground's thermal properties. The sand will release its stored heat gradually through the night, providing gentle warmth that will dissipate by morning. Most importantly, her sleeping space maintains connection to the group while providing personal comfort. She can hear the reassuring sounds of others, breathing and moving, but her rest won't be disturbed by unnecessary noise or movement. This delicate balance between privacy and community reflects the nomad's deep understanding of human sleep psychology. As full darkness approaches, Layla engages in personal rituals that modern sleep hygiene experts would recognize as optimal preparation practices, though she learned them not from scientific studies, but from generations of inherited wisdom. She begins with gentle movement stretching and breathing exercises that release the day's physical tensions. These movements are not vigorous exercise, which would be stimulating, but slow, meditative motions that help her body transition from activity to rest. Modern research confirms that gentle stretching before bed can improve sleep quality by reducing muscle tension and activating relaxation responses. Layla's breathing practice follows patterns that optimize her nervous system for sleep. She breathes slowly and deeply, extending her exhales longer than her inhales, technique that modern psychology recognizes as one of the most effective ways to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and prepare the body for rest. Perhaps most importantly, Layla engages in mental practices that clear her mind of the day's concerns and worries. She has learned from her grandmother that carrying the day's thoughts into sleep is like bringing sand into fresh water. It clouds everything and prevents the clarity that rest should bring. Her mental clearing ritual involves reviewing the day's experiences not with anxiety or judgment, but with gratitude and acceptance. She acknowledges what went well, accepts what was challenging, and releases both into the desert night. This practice prevents the rumination and worry that keeps so many modern people awake despite physical exhaustion. Layla also engages in what sleep researchers now call constructive worry time, deliberately setting aside a few minutes to acknowledge concerns and either plan specific actions or consciously decide to address them tomorrow. This prevents the middle-of-the-night anxiety spirals that plague urban sleepers. As the camp settles into sleep preparation, Layla often contributes to the gentle communal activities that ease the entire group toward rest. Sometimes this involves soft singing traditional lullabies and chants that regulate breathing and heart rate. Sometimes it means sharing a brief story that captures the day's experiences or offers wisdom for tomorrow's journey. These communal sleep preparations serve crucial psychological functions. They reinforce the social bonds that make deep sleep possible by ensuring everyone feels connected and secure. They synchronize the group's circadian rhythms, creating the collective sleep patterns that enhance individual rest. And they transform bedtime from a solitary, potentially anxious experience into a shared, comforting ritual. As Layla finally settles into her sleeping area, every aspect of her preparation has a mind to create optimal conditions for restorative sleep. Her body temperature is beginning its natural descent. Her nervous system has shifted into rest mode. Her mind is clear of the day's concerns, and her environment supports rather than fights her sleep physiology. She has not used technology, pharmaceuticals, or complex interventions. Instead, she has simply honored the wisdom that her people have accumulated over thousands of years. Wisdom that recognizes sleep not as a problem to be solved, but as a natural process to be supported and received. In the pre-dawn darkness, when the desert holds its breath between night and morning, Tuareg's sleeping area represents the culmination of 3 millennia of human experimentation with optimal rest environments. To modern eyes, his sleeping arrangement might appear primitive, a simple carpet laid on sand, a thin blanket, a small pillow. This apparent simplicity conceals sophisticated understanding of how environmental factors affect sleep quality. Tuareg's choice to sleep directly on the desert floor, with only a thin carpet for separation, reflects profound wisdom about thermal regulation and sleep. The sand beneath him serves as a natural temperature buffer, absorbing heat during the day and releasing it slowly through the night. This creates a subtle warming effect during the coldest pre-dawn hours, preventing the uncomfortable temperature swings that can fragment sleep. Modern sleep research confirms that ground sleeping, when done correctly, can provide superior spinal alignment and pressure point relief compared to modern mattresses. The firm, consistent support of the earth prevents the sagging and uneven pressure distribution that causes many people to toss and turn throughout the night. The nomads have discovered what orthopedic specialists are now rediscovering. The human spine evolved to rest on firm, natural surfaces. The excessive cushioning of modern mattresses can actually interfere with proper spinal alignment, creating pressure points and muscle tension that disrupt sleep quality. Tuareg's sleeping arrangement provides optimal air circulation, a crucial factor in sleep quality that modern bedrooms often compromise. His low profile allows the desert's natural air currents to flow over and around his body, preventing the heat buildup and stuffiness that can cause nighttime awakenings. The elevation sleeping close to, but not directly on the ground, creates a microenvironment where cooler air settles while allowing his body heat to dissipate naturally. This positioning takes advantage of natural convection patterns that provide gentle air circulation throughout the night. Modern sleep studies show that air quality and circulation dramatically affect sleep depth and duration. Stuffy, poorly ventilated bedrooms common in urban environments can reduce sleep quality by up to 30%. The nomad sleeping arrangements ensure optimal oxygen levels and carbon dioxide dispersal throughout the night. The materials in Tuareg's sleeping area reflect generations of refinement based on desert conditions and human physiology. His carpet is woven from natural fibers that breathe with his body, absorbing moisture during warm periods and providing insulation when temperatures drop. Unlike synthetic materials that trap heat and moisture, these natural fibers regulate temperature and humidity naturally. His blanket, thin but surprisingly warm, demonstrates the nomad's understanding of layering and thermal regulation. Rather than relying on thick, heavy coverings that can cause overheating, he uses lightweight materials that trap air efficiently while allowing moisture to escape. This prevents the sweating and cooling cycles that can fragment sleep. The small pillow, filled with aromatic desert grasses, provides just enough elevation to maintain airway alignment without straining the neck. Its natural filling conforms to the shape of his head while providing support, and the subtle fragrances of the dried grasses have mild sedative properties that support relaxation. Tuareg's sleeping position and orientation follow principles that modern sleep science is beginning to validate. He lies with his head pointing away from the direction of tomorrow's sunrise, preventing early morning light from disrupting his final sleep cycles. His position also takes advantage of natural air circulation patterns and protects him from the prevailing winds. The nomads have long understood that orientation affects sleep quality, though they explain it in terms of energy flow and harmony with natural forces rather than scientific mechanisms. Modern research suggests that magnetic field orientation, air circulation, and light exposure patterns can indeed influence sleep quality in subtle but measurable ways. The acoustic environment of Tuareg's sleeping area demonstrates another crucial aspect of optimal sleep conditions. He is positioned to minimize disruptive sounds while maintaining connection to the reassuring background noise of the sleeping camp. The gentle sounds of others breathing, the soft whisper of wind through the camp, and the subtle movements of animals create what acoustic researchers call an optimal soundscape for sleep. Unlike the jarring, unpredictable noises of urban environments, traffic, sirens, air conditioning units, the sounds around Tuareg are consistent, rhythmic, and natural. These sounds actually enhance sleep quality by masking potentially disruptive noises while providing the subtle auditory input that the human brain evolved to expect during rest. The positioning of his sleeping area also takes advantage of natural sound barriers, the curve of nearby dunes, the positioning of camels and equipment, and the arrangement of other sleeping areas to create a pocket of acoustic comfort that supports rather than disrupts rest. Perhaps most importantly, Tuareg's sleeping environment provides the precise light conditions that optimize human sleep physiology. Complete darkness during the deep night hours allows maximum melatonin production. The gradual appearance of starlight and moonlight provides a subtle illumination that helps regulate circadian rhythms without disrupting sleep. As dawn approaches, the slowly increasing light will gradually suppress melatonin production and increase cortisol, creating the natural awakening process that brings him gently back to consciousness. There are no sudden light changes, no artificial illumination to confuse his circadian system, just the smooth, predictable rhythm of natural light and darkness that guided human sleep for millions of years. Tuareg's sleeping arrangement represents the ultimate expression of less is more philosophy. Every element serves a specific function. Nothing is superfluous, and each component works harmoniously with the others to create optimal sleep conditions. This minimalist approach eliminates the distractions, complications, and potential disruptions that characterize modern sleep environments. His sleeping area contains no electronic devices to emit electromagnetic fields or blue light, no synthetic materials to off-gas chemicals or trap moisture, no complex mechanisms to break down or malfunction. Just the essential elements needed to support the body's natural sleep processes, refined through centuries of desert living. As Tuareg rests in this carefully orchestrated environment, his sleep demonstrates something profound. Optimal rest doesn't require expensive equipment or advanced technology. It simply requires understanding and working with the biological and environmental factors that evolution designed to regulate human sleep. His sleeping arrangement is a masterclass in sleep architecture, demonstration that the best sleep environments are those that remove barriers to natural rest, rather than trying to technologically override the body's own wisdom. In sleep laboratories across the developed world, researchers studying the blood chemistry of traditional desert populations have made discoveries that revolutionize our understanding of how human hormones should function during rest. The nomad's sleep triggers hormonal cascades, so different from urban populations that they appear to represent an entirely different model of human physiology. Dr. Russell Ryder, one of the world's leading melatonin researchers, was stunned when he first analyzed the hormone levels of Sahara nomads. Their melatonin production patterns showed peaks that were 300 to 400% higher than typical urban dwellers. With timing so precise, it appeared to be orchestrated by an internal chronometer of extraordinary accuracy. Unlike city dwellers, whose melatonin production is suppressed and delayed by artificial light exposure, the nomad's pineal glands begin releasing this crucial sleep hormone precisely as the sun disappears below the horizon. Their melatonin levels rise steadily through the evening, peak during the deepest part of the night, and decline gradually as dawn approaches, creating the perfect biochemical environment for restorative sleep. But the nomad's melatonin advantage extends far beyond sleep regulation. Research shows that melatonin is one of the body's most powerful antioxidants, protecting cells from oxidative damage and supporting immune function. The nomad's elevated melatonin levels may explain their remarkable resistance to cancer, cardiovascular disease, and neurodegenerative conditions that plague developed nations. Their natural melatonin production also supports optimal DNA repair processes that occur during sleep. While urban populations experience declining cellular repair capacity with age, the nomads maintain robust DNA maintenance systems throughout their lives, potentially explaining their exceptional longevity and healthy aging. The nomads' extended periods of deep sleep trigger growth hormone release patterns that modern endocrinologists consider exceptional. While urban adults typically experience declining growth hormone production after age 30, traditional desert populations maintain robust growth hormone levels well into advanced age. This sustained growth hormone production explains several remarkable characteristics of nomadic populations. Their maintained muscle mass and bone density despite advanced age, their rapid healing from injuries, and their metabolic efficiency that prevents age-related weight gain and diabetes. Growth hormone release is directly tied to deep sleep quantity and quality. The nomad's ability to achieve extended periods of slow-wave sleep, often 2 to 3 times longer than urban populations, creates optimal conditions for growth hormone production that modern sleep never achieves. Perhaps most remarkably, the nomads demonstrate cortisol patterns that represent optimal stress hormone regulation. Their cortisol levels rise appropriately in the early morning, providing energy and alertness for the day ahead, then decline gradually through the evening, reaching minimal levels during sleep. Urban populations typically show disrupted cortisol patterns, elevated evening levels that interfere with sleep, insufficient morning peaks that create fatigue, and chronic elevation that contributes to anxiety, depression, and metabolic dysfunction. The nomad's cortisol patterns reflect nervous systems that are responsive to appropriate challenges, but capable of complete relaxation during rest periods. This optimal cortisol regulation appears to be directly related to their natural light exposure and circadian rhythm stability. The nomad's daily rhythm of bright morning light, full-spectrum daytime exposure, and complete darkness at night maintains the precise light-dark cues that regulate cortisol production. The nomad's sleep patterns support insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism in ways that prevent the diabetes epidemic plaguing developed nations. Their extended deep sleep periods maintain optimal insulin receptor function, while their stable circadian rhythms prevent the glucose metabolism disruptions that contribute to metabolic syndrome. Studies show that even a single night of poor sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity by up to 25%. The nomad's consistently high-quality sleep maintains insulin function that allows them to process their simple desert diet efficiently while maintaining stable energy levels throughout the day. Their meal timing also synchronizes perfectly with their circadian biology. They eat their largest meal during midday, when insulin sensitivity is naturally highest, consume lighter foods as evening approaches, and fast naturally during sleep hours. This eating pattern, combined with optimal sleep, creates ideal conditions for metabolic health. The nomad's natural sleep patterns support reproductive hormone function in ways that modern life disrupts. Women's menstrual cycles align naturally with lunar cycles when artificial light doesn't interfere with hormonal signals. Men maintain healthy testosterone production patterns that depend on adequate deep sleep and proper circadian rhythm regulation. Research shows that urban men have experienced a 50% decline in testosterone levels over the past 50 years, much of which appears to be related to sleep disruption and artificial light exposure. The nomadic men maintain testosterone levels throughout their lives that exceed those of much younger urban males. Women in traditional desert cultures experience fewer menstrual disorders, easier pregnancies, and smoother menopausal transitions, all related to their natural sleep patterns and circadian rhythm stability. Their reproductive systems function as evolution designed them to function, without the hormonal chaos that characterizes modern women's health. The nomad's sleep orchestrates immune function with precision that modern medicine struggles to replicate. Their deep sleep periods trigger optimal production of immune cells, antibodies, and inflammatory regulators that keep them healthy despite exposure to harsh environmental conditions. During their extended slow-wave sleep, the nomad's bodies produce peak levels of interleukin-1 and tumor necrosis, crucial immune signaling molecules that coordinate the body's defense systems. Their sleep essentially serves as nightly immune system training, preparing their bodies to handle whatever challenges they might encounter. Their robust immune function explains their ability to thrive in environments that would overwhelm modern immune systems. They resist infections, recover quickly from injuries, and maintain immune surveillance that prevents cancer and autoimmune diseases common in developed nations. The nomad's sleep supports neurotransmitter production and regulation that creates optimal brain function and emotional stability. Their natural sleep patterns maintain healthy levels of serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and other crucial brain chemicals that regulate mood, cognition, and behavior. Unlike urban populations, who often require pharmaceutical interventions to maintain neurotransmitter balance, the nomads achieve optimal brain chemistry through natural sleep processes. Their emotional stability, cognitive clarity, and psychological resilience reflect brains that are properly restored and maintained through high-quality rest. Their sleep also supports optimal acetylcholine production, the neurotransmitter crucial for learning and memory formation. This may explain their extraordinary ability to navigate vast landscapes, remember complex oral traditions, and maintain practical skills throughout their lives. The nomad's hormonal symphony demonstrates something profound. When human beings sleep as evolution designed them to sleep, their bodies produce the precise biochemical conditions needed for optimal health, longevity, and well-being. Their sleep is not just rest, it is the foundation of human physiological excellence. Under the star-scattered dome of the Sahara night, the sleeping caravan forms a pattern that would fascinate anthropologists and sleep researchers alike. This is not random arrangement, but sophisticated social architecture, a community sleeping design that reflects 3 millennia of accumulated wisdom about how human beings achieve optimal rest in groups. The nomads arrange their sleeping areas in what researchers now recognize as the optimal configuration for group sleep, a loose circle that provides both security and privacy. Each family unit has its own space, but the arrangement ensures that no one sleeps truly alone. This pattern taps into deep evolutionary programming that associates solitary sleep with danger and group rest with safety. Modern sleep studies confirm what the nomads have always known. Humans sleep more deeply when they feel secure and connected to others. The subtle sounds of others' breathing, the sense of community presence, and the shared vigilance of the group all contribute to the parasympathetic nervous system activation that enables deep, restorative sleep. The circular arrangement also serves practical functions. It maximizes protection from wind and weather while ensuring that any disturbance will wake the appropriate people without unnecessarily disrupting everyone's rest. It reflects the nomad's understanding that community sleep requires balancing individual comfort with collective security. Perhaps most remarkably, the nomad's group sleeping creates what chronobiologists call circadian synchronization, the alignment of individual biological clocks through social cues. When people sleep in close proximity, their circadian rhythms naturally begin to align, creating more stable and predictable sleep-wake cycles for everyone. This synchronization effect appears to be mediated by subtle environmental cues, shared exposure to light and darkness, synchronized meal times, and even the unconscious detection of others' breathing patterns and body temperatures. The result is a community whose sleep-wake cycles reinforce each other rather than competing. Research shows that circadian synchronization enhances sleep quality for all members of the group. Individual variations in chronotype, whether someone is naturally a morning lark or night owl, become less pronounced when people sleep in synchronized groups, creating more stable community rhythms. The nomadic sleeping arrangement places different generations in proximity that serves crucial functions for both young and old. Children sleep near parents and grandparents, benefiting from the security and warmth that adult presence provides. But this arrangement also benefits the adults, whose sleep is enhanced by the presence of the children they protect. Evolutionary psychologists suggest that humans evolved to sleep in multi-generational groups, with different age groups providing different types of vigilance and security. The mixed sleeping arrangement ensures that someone is always at the optimal level of alertness for detecting and responding to potential dangers. The presence of children also appears to optimize adult sleep hormones. Parents sleeping near their children show enhanced growth hormone production and more stable cortisol patterns. biological responses that reflect the deep satisfaction of fulfilling evolutionary roles as protectors and nurturers. Traditional nomadic sleeping arrangements also reflect sophisticated understanding of how gender affects sleep needs and patterns. Women and men are positioned to take advantage of their different sleep architectures and chronobiological patterns while maintaining family and community bonds. Research shows that women typically require more sleep than men and experience different sleep architecture with more deep sleep and different REM patterns. The nomadic arrangements accommodate these differences while ensuring that reproductive partners maintain the proximity that supports hormonal synchronization and emotional bonding. The sleeping arrangement also provides pregnant and nursing women with optimal support and protection while allowing them to maintain the sleep patterns crucial for maternal and infant health. The community structure ensures that childcare responsibilities are shared, preventing the sleep deprivation that often affects modern mothers. One of the most subtle but important aspects of group sleeping is respiratory synchronization. When people sleep in proximity, their breathing patterns naturally begin to align, creating what sleep researchers call respiratory entrainment. This synchronization appears to enhance sleep depth and stability for all members of the group. The nomad sleeping arrangement takes advantage of this phenomenon by positioning people so that respiratory synchronization can occur without disturbance. The result is a community that literally breathes together during sleep, creating acoustic conditions that promote deeper rest for everyone. This respiratory synchronization may also enhance the social bonding that occurs during sleep. Research suggests that synchronized breathing patterns strengthen emotional connections and trust between individuals, contributing to the social cohesion that nomadic survival requires. The soundscape of the sleeping caravan creates optimal acoustic conditions for group rest. The gentle sounds of multiple people breathing, shifting, and dreaming create what acoustics experts call beneficial masking, background noise that covers potentially disruptive sounds while providing reassuring evidence of community presence. This natural soundscape is dramatically different from the jarring, unpredictable noises that characterize urban sleeping environments. Instead of sudden sounds that trigger stress responses, the nomadic sleeping area provides consistent, rhythmic background sounds that actually enhance sleep quality. The acoustic design also ensures that truly important sounds, the approach of strangers, weather changes, or animal movements, can still be detected and will wake the appropriate people. The community sleeping arrangement creates a distributed alarm system that enhances security without compromising rest. The nomad's group sleeping arrangement creates thermal advantages that individual sleeping cannot achieve. The collective body heat of the community helps maintain optimal temperatures during the coldest desert nights, while the spacing prevents overheating during warmer periods. This thermal networking is particularly important for children and elderly community members, whose temperature regulation may be less efficient. The group arrangement ensures that everyone benefits from optimal thermal conditions throughout the night. The shared thermal environment also reduces the energy expenditure required for temperature regulation, allowing more metabolic resources to be devoted to repair and restoration during sleep. Anthropological studies of nomadic cultures reveal that group sleeping facilitates shared dreaming experiences and collective dream interpretation. The proximity of sleeping community members appears to create conditions where individual dreams become part of a larger cultural and psychological process. The nomads often wake and share significant dreams with the community, using these shared experiences for decision-making, problem-solving, and maintaining cultural traditions. This practice transforms sleep from an individual experience into a community resource. Modern research suggests that REM sleep and dreaming serve important functions for social cognition and emotional processing. The nomad's group sleeping arrangement may enhance these functions by creating conditions where individual psychological processing contributes to collective wisdom and decision-making. The nomadic sleeping community demonstrates something profound. Humans are not designed to sleep alone in isolated bedrooms. We evolved as social sleepers, and our rest is optimized when we maintain connection to others, even during unconsciousness. The nomad social architecture of sleep creates conditions that support not just individual rest, but community resilience, cultural continuity, and collective well-being. In the hour before dawn, when the desert sky begins its subtle transformation from black to deep blue, Layla's eyes open with the quiet certainty of someone whose body has perfectly completed its nightly restoration. She does not wake with alarm or confusion, does not feel the grogginess that plagues modern sleepers, and experiences none of the jarring transition that characterizes artificial awakening. Instead, she emerges from sleep like a flower, opening to morning light naturally, gradually, and completely refreshed. Layla's awakening demonstrates what sleep researchers call optimal sleep termination, waking at the end of a complete sleep cycle rather than being interrupted mid-cycle by artificial alarms. Her brain has cycled through its required phases of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep with precision guided by natural circadian cues, concluding its nightly restoration exactly when her body is ready to return to consciousness. This natural awakening occurs because her sleep has been properly structured from the beginning. The nomad's consistent sleep schedule, natural light exposure, and optimal sleep environment create conditions where sleep cycles align perfectly with the approaching dawn. Unlike urban dwellers whose irregular schedules and artificial environments create unpredictable sleep patterns, Layla's rest follows rhythms that have been refined over thousands of years. Modern sleep studies show that people awaken naturally at the end of sleep cycles demonstrate superior cognitive performance, better mood regulation, and higher energy levels compared to those awakened by alarms during deep sleep phases. Layla's natural awakening gives her immediate access to full alertness and mental clarity that artificial awakening rarely achieves. As Layla's eyes open, her body is already orchestrating the hormonal changes that support optimal waking function. Her cortisol levels, which reach their lowest point during deep sleep, begin rising in response to subtle light cues, providing the energy and alertness needed for the day ahead. Unlike the jarring cortisol spikes that alarm clocks trigger, this natural rise creates sustainable energy without stress or anxiety. Her melatonin production, which peaked during the night's deepest hours, begins its gradual decline as increasing light signals her pineal gland that day is approaching. This slow melatonin withdrawal prevents the grogginess that occurs when people are suddenly exposed to bright light while melatonin levels remain high. Simultaneously, her body temperature begins its natural morning rise after reaching its lowest point during deep sleep. This temperature increase supports the metabolic activation needed for waking function while maintaining the thermal comfort that eases the transition from sleep to consciousness. The light environment that awakens Layla represents the optimal conditions for natural circadian rhythm regulation, rather than the harsh, sudden illumination of electric lights or alarm clocks. She experiences the gradually increasing photons of natural dawn light that slowly intensifies in both quantity and spectrum as the sun approaches the horizon. This gradual light exposure allows her eyes to adjust naturally while providing the precise wavelengths needed to suppress melatonin production and activate daytime neurotransmitter systems. The slowly increasing light intensity triggers the pupil adjustments, lens focusing, and retinal activation that prepare her visual system for daytime function without the shocking transition that artificial lighting creates. Research shows that exposure to gradually increasing natural light creates more stable mood, better cognitive function, and optimal circadian rhythm regulation compared to sudden artificial illumination. Layla's natural light awakening provides her with immediate mental clarity and emotional balance that artificial awakening rarely achieves. As consciousness returns, Layla's breathing naturally shifts from the slow, deep patterns of sleep to the more active rhythms of waking. This transition occurs smoothly and automatically, guided by changing oxygen needs and nervous system activation. Her respiratory system has spent the night in optimal rest mode and now adjusts seamlessly to support daytime activities. The clean, cool desert air provides her lungs with optimal conditions for this transition. Unlike urban environments where air pollution, allergens, and artificial air circulation can make morning breathing difficult, the desert's pure atmosphere supports easy, comfortable respiration that enhances the awakening process. Her breathing patterns also help regulate her nervous system's transition from parasympathetic dominance to sympathetic activation. This gradual shift prevents the stress response that abrupt awakening can trigger, while ensuring she has the energy and focus needed for the day ahead. Layla's first physical movements upon waking demonstrate the nomad's intuitive understanding of how to transition the body from rest to activity. Rather than immediately jumping up or rushing into demanding activities, she moves slowly and deliberately, allowing her muscles, joints, and circulation to adjust gradually to active function. Her gentle stretching and movement serve multiple physiological functions. They help circulate lymphatic fluid that is pooled during sleep, gradually increase heart rate and blood pressure, and activate the neuromuscular systems that will support the day's activities. This gradual physical activation prevents the injuries and discomfort that can occur when sedentary bodies are suddenly subjected to demanding activities. The slow, mindful quality of her morning movements also supports the psychological transition from sleep consciousness to waking awareness. Rather than the jarring shift that alarm clocks create, her gentle physical awakening allows her mind to naturally orient to the new day's possibilities and challenges. Perhaps most remarkably, Layla's natural awakening provides her with immediate cognitive clarity that sleep-deprived or artificially awakened people rarely experience. Her mind feels sharp and focused, her memory is clear, and her thinking processes are fully online within minutes of opening her eyes. This cognitive clarity results from several factors. Her sleep has properly consolidated memories and cleared metabolic waste from her brain. Her natural awakening has avoided the confusion and disorientation that mid-cycle awakening creates, and her optimal hormone levels provide the neurochemical foundation for peak mental performance. Studies show that people who wake naturally demonstrate superior performance on cognitive tests, better decision-making abilities, and enhanced creative problem-solving compared to those awakened artificially. Layla's mental state upon awakening represents the cognitive potential that optimal sleep can provide. Layla's natural awakening also provides her with emotional stability and positive mood that artificial awakening disrupts. She feels calm, centered, and optimistic emotional states that reflect both her restorative sleep and her gentle awakening process. This emotional equilibrium results from optimal neurotransmitter balance created by quality sleep and natural awakening. Her serotonin levels support positive mood, her dopamine provides motivation and pleasure, and her GABA maintains the calm alertness that characterizes optimal waking function. Unlike people who wake feeling anxious, irritable, or overwhelmed, common responses to artificial awakening and poor sleep, Layla begins each day from a foundation of emotional stability that supports resilience and adaptability throughout whatever challenges she might encounter. Layla's awakening represents the successful completion of one full circadian cycle and the natural beginning of the next. Her body has achieved the restoration and repair that sleep provides, and now transitions seamlessly into the active phase that will prepare her for another night of optimal rest. This circadian success creates positive feedback loops that enhance both her daytime function and her evening sleep preparation. Because she wakes feeling truly rested, she can engage fully in daytime activities that will create the appropriate tiredness for evening sleep. Because her awakening is gentle and natural, she avoids the stress responses that can disrupt the following night's rest. Layla's natural awakening demonstrates something profound. When human beings sleep and wake according to their biological design, they experience levels of rest, restoration, and vitality that modern life rarely provides. In the deepest hours of the night, when the desert holds its most profound silence, Layla often finds herself gently awakened, not by disturbance, but by the natural rhythm of her sleep cycles. Unlike the jarring midnight awakenings that plague urban insomniacs, Layla's brief periods of nighttime consciousness are peaceful interludes that demonstrate the nomad's mastery of what sleep researchers call polyphasic sleep patterns. Modern sleep medicine has only recently rediscovered that humans naturally experience brief awakenings throughout the night, moments of gentle consciousness that our ancestors used for safety awareness, dream processing, and deep reflection. Urban populations often panic during these natural awakenings, interpreting them as insomnia and creating anxiety that prevents return to sleep. But Layla and her people understand these midnight moments as gifts rather than problems. During these peaceful midnight interludes, Layla practices what modern psychology would recognize as advanced mindfulness techniques, though she learned them not from books or classes, but from her grandmother's whispered teachings. She lies still, listening to the subtle sounds of the desert night, feeling the gentle rhythm of her own breathing, and allowing her mind to process the day's experiences without judgment or urgency. This natural meditation serves crucial functions that modern sleep hygiene rarely addresses. It prevents the anxiety spiral that turns normal sleep cycle transitions into chronic insomnia. It provides space for dream integration and emotional processing. Most importantly, it maintains the trust in her body's sleep wisdom that allows her to return easily to deep rest. Layla's midnight consciousness demonstrates something profound about the relationship between sleep and awareness. Rather than viewing sleep as unconsciousness to be achieved and maintained at all costs, she understands rest as a dynamic process that includes moments of gentle awakening. This perspective eliminates the performance anxiety around sleep that keeps so many modern people awake. As the keeper of sleep wisdom for her generation, Layla often uses these midnight moments to mentally review the sleep teachings she will someday pass to the next generation. These teachings, encoded in stories and practical wisdom, contain remarkably sophisticated understanding of sleep physiology and psychology. One of her favorite teachings concerns what she calls the three sleeps, the nomad's understanding that a full night's rest consists of three distinct phases, each with its own purpose and character. Modern sleep research confirms this traditional knowledge. Healthy sleep typically includes an initial period of deep sleep for physical restoration, a middle period of mixed sleep stages for memory consolidation, and a final period of lighter sleep for dream processing and preparation for waking. Layla knows that disrupting any of these three sleeps creates specific types of problems. Interrupted early sleep leads to physical fatigue and reduced immune function. Disrupted middle sleep affects memory and learning. Fragmented late sleep impairs emotional regulation and mood. This traditional knowledge guides the nomad's evening routines and sleeping arrangements in ways that protect all three phases of rest. Perhaps most remarkably, Layla understands sleep as medicine, a healing force that repairs not just physical fatigue, but emotional wounds, spiritual disconnection, and mental confusion. Her role as herbalist extends beyond knowing which plants promote rest to understanding how sleep itself functions as the most powerful medicine available to human beings. She has observed countless times how sleep transforms people who arrive at the camp exhausted, anxious, or unwell. The desert's perfect sleep environment, combined with the nomad's sleep wisdom, creates healing that modern medicine struggles to achieve. Layla's approach to dream interpretation focuses not on symbolic analysis, but on practical application. She helps dreamers understand how their sleeping minds are processing daily challenges, working through relationship issues, or revealing solutions to practical problems. This integration of dream wisdom into waking life creates a seamless connection between sleep and daily consciousness that urban cultures have largely abandoned. Her dream work also reveals the superior quality of nomadic sleep. While urban populations often experience anxiety dreams that reflect overstimulation and stress, the nomad's dreams tend to be coherent, meaningful, and emotionally balanced. Their dreams serve the restorative and integrative functions that evolution designed, rather than simply processing psychological noise. As Lila settles back into sleep after her gentle midnight awakening, she embodies something that modern sleep medicine desperately needs to understand: the relationship between trust and rest. She trusts her body's sleep wisdom, trusts the desert's natural rhythms, and trusts the ancient practices that have sustained her people for centuries. This trust eliminates the sleep anxiety that creates chronic insomnia in modern populations. Layla never worries about whether she will sleep well, how many hours she needs, or whether her sleep quality is adequate. She simply receives the rest that comes naturally when human beings live in harmony with their biological design. Her peaceful return to sleep demonstrates the profound difference between fighting for rest and allowing it to arrive. In the urban world, sleep has become something to be conquered, optimized, and controlled. In the desert world that Layla inhabits, sleep remains what it always was: a gift to be received with gratitude and trust. Dr. Matthew Walker stands before a conference of sleep researchers in Geneva, presenting data that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. The slides behind him tell the story of what he terms the greatest public health crisis of the 21st century, a civilization-wide collapse of human sleep that is literally rewiring our species' biology in real time. We are living through a sleep apocalypse, Walker announces to the stunned audience. For the first time in human history, an entire generation is growing up with fundamentally altered sleep architecture. We are witnessing the breakdown of biological systems that took millions of years to evolve, and we're doing it to ourselves. The statistics Walker presents are staggering in their implications. In developed countries, average sleep duration has decreased by more than 2 hours per night since 1950. But quantity is only part of the crisis. Sleep quality has deteriorated even more dramatically. Sleep efficiency, the percentage of time spent actually sleeping while in bed, has dropped from the 95% typical of traditional populations to below 80% in many urban areas. The consequences extend far beyond feeling tired. Walker's research team has documented how chronic sleep deprivation is literally changing human DNA expression, turning on genes associated with inflammation, stress, and accelerated aging, while turning off genes that protect against cancer and immune dysfunction. We are not just sleeping poorly, we are evolving into a species that cannot sleep well. Children are perhaps the most tragic victims of this crisis. The average teenager now gets less sleep than their great-grandparents did as elderly adults. Childhood insomnia rates have increased by over 300% in the past 2 decades. An entire generation is growing up with compromised cognitive development, emotional regulation, and physical health due to chronic sleep deprivation. The introduction of artificial light in the evening was humanity's first major disruption of natural sleep patterns. But the digital revolution has created what researchers call a perfect storm of sleep destruction. The blue light emitted by screens is precisely calibrated to suppress melatonin production and delay sleep onset. But the problem goes deeper than light exposure. Digital devices create what Dr. Larry Rosen terms idisseger, a state of chronic stimulation and anxiety that is fundamentally incompatible with the calm awareness necessary for sleep. The average person checks their phone 150 times per day, creating constant microdoses of stress hormones that accumulate throughout the day and prevent the evening relaxation necessary for rest. Social media platforms deliberately design their interfaces to create what researchers call variable ratio reinforcement schedules, the same psychological mechanism that makes gambling addictive. Users become dependent on unpredictable digital rewards, creating anxiety when separated from devices that make sleep nearly impossible. The placement of screens in bedrooms has created what sleep specialists call sleep environment contamination. Bedrooms have become entertainment centers, offices, and social connection hubs rather than sanctuaries dedicated solely to rest. The psychological associations between beds and stimulating activities create conditioned arousal that prevents sleep initiation. Rather than addressing the root causes of widespread insomnia, modern medicine has created what critics call the pharmaceutical sleep complex, multi-billion-dollar industry built on chemically overriding disrupted biology rather than restoring natural sleep function. Sleep medications now represent one of the fastest-growing pharmaceutical categories, with over 60 million prescriptions written annually in the United States alone. But these drugs don't create natural sleep. They create sedation that lacks many of the restorative benefits of healthy rest. Users become dependent not just on the medications, but on the idea that sleep is something that must be artificially induced rather than naturally received. The side effects of chronic sleep medication use are becoming increasingly apparent. Cognitive impairment, increased fall risk, dependency, rebound insomnia, and paradoxically, worsened sleep quality over time. Many long-term users find themselves trapped in cycles of escalating medication use that provides less and less benefit while creating more and more problems. The movement of human populations into cities has created environmental conditions that are actively hostile to natural sleep patterns. Urban environments expose residents to constant noise pollution, air pollution, light pollution, and electromagnetic radiation that interfere with sleep at the most basic biological levels. City planning rarely considers the impact of environmental factors on sleep health. Streetlights flood bedrooms with artificial illumination throughout the night. Traffic noise creates unpredictable acoustic disruptions that fragment sleep cycles. Air pollution from vehicles and industry creates respiratory irritation that disrupts breathing during sleep. The social isolation common in urban environments eliminates the communal sleeping patterns that supported human rest for millennia. People sleep alone in small apartments, surrounded by the sounds of strangers rather than the comfort of known community members. This isolation triggers ancient survival mechanisms that maintain partial vigilance even during sleep. The economic costs of widespread sleep disruption are becoming impossible to ignore. Sleep-deprived workers are less productive, more prone to accidents, and more likely to develop chronic health conditions that strain healthcare systems. The Rand Corporation estimates that insufficient sleep costs the U.S. economy over $400 billion annually in lost productivity alone. Healthcare systems are overwhelmed by conditions directly related to poor sleep: depression, anxiety, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, and immune dysfunction. Hospitals report that sleep-deprived medical staff make more mistakes, contributing to the estimated 100,000 deaths annually from preventable medical errors. The transportation industry faces crisis-level safety concerns as drowsy driving causes more accidents than drunk driving in many jurisdictions. Commercial pilots, truck drivers, and other transportation workers operate in states of chronic sleep deprivation that put millions of lives at risk. Perhaps most alarming is the evidence that sleep disruption is becoming intergenerational. Sleep-deprived parents create household environments that disrupt their children's sleep. Children raised with poor sleep patterns often become adults who cannot establish healthy rest even when conditions improve. Pregnant women's sleep disruption affects fetal brain development in ways that may create permanent changes in their children's sleep architecture. Some researchers worry that we are creating genetic changes that will make future generations even less capable of healthy sleep than current populations. The cultural normalization of sleep deprivation has created what sociologists call sleep stigma, the belief that needing adequate sleep is a sign of weakness or laziness. This cultural shift makes it even more difficult for individuals to prioritize the sleep they desperately need for health and well-being. Standing before his colleagues, Dr. Walker concludes with a sobering assessment. We have created the first civilization in history that treats sleep as optional rather than essential. The consequences of this experiment are becoming clear, and they are catastrophic. If we don't reverse course soon, we may discover that we have permanently damaged our species' capacity for the rest that makes us human. As dawn approaches the nomadic camp, the first lesson of desert sleep becomes clear in the gentle transition from night to day. There are no alarms, no jarring awakenings, no rushed transitions from unconsciousness to full activity. Instead, a camp awakens as gradually as it fell asleep, each person emerging from rest at the natural completion of their sleep cycles, refreshed and alert in ways that alarm-driven urban dwellers rarely experience. This natural awakening demonstrates the first principle that modern life must reclaim. Sleep and waking are not opposing, states to be switched between, but part of a continuous rhythm that flows like breathing. The nomads don't go to sleep and wake up. They ebb and flow with consciousness and harmony with the natural cycles that have governed life for millions of years. The most fundamental teaching of the desert concerns humanity's relationship with darkness. For the nomads, darkness is not an inconvenience to be overcome, but a biological necessity to be embraced. They understand that human beings are not designed for perpetual light, and that the attempt to extend day into night creates physiological chaos. Modern research validates what the nomads have always known. Exposure to artificial light after sunset disrupts the delicate neurochemical cascades that prepare the body for rest. The blue light wavelengths emitted by LED screens and modern lighting are precisely the frequencies that tell the brain it's midday, effectively creating a state of perpetual arousal that makes deep sleep impossible. The desert's gift of complete darkness allows melatonin production to follow its natural patterns, rising gradually as twilight deepens, peaking in the middle of the night, and declining slowly as dawn approaches. This natural melatonin rhythm creates sleep that is not just longer, but qualitatively different from the fragmented rest that urban populations experience. The lesson for modern life is clear. We must reclaim darkness as a biological necessity rather than treating it as an inconvenience. This means creating evening routines that gradually reduce light exposure, removing electronic devices from sleeping areas, and designing bedrooms that can achieve the complete darkness that allows optimal melatonin production. The desert's dramatic temperature swings scorching days followed by cool nights reveal another crucial principle of optimal sleep. The human body is designed to sleep when core temperature drops, and the modern practice of maintaining constant temperatures throughout the day and night interferes with this fundamental biological signal. The nomad's sleeping arrangements work with rather than against natural thermoregulation. Their simple bedding allows body temperature to fluctuate naturally with environmental conditions. As the desert cools at night, their bodies cool as well, triggering the physiological changes that initiate deep sleep. As morning approaches and temperatures begin to rise, their bodies naturally warm, gently bringing them back to consciousness. Modern bedrooms, with their central heating and air conditioning, eliminate the temperature variations that support optimal sleep architecture. We create thermal environments that are comfortable for waking activities, but work against the temperature cycling that enhances rest quality. The practical application is straightforward. Sleeping environments should be cooler than daytime living spaces. Bedrooms should allow natural temperature fluctuations rather than maintaining constant conditions, and bedding should facilitate rather than prevent natural thermoregulation. Perhaps the most profound teaching of nomadic sleep culture concerns the social nature of rest. Humans evolved to sleep in groups, and the modern practice of isolated sleep disrupts ancient safety mechanisms that affect sleep quality at the most fundamental levels. The nomads sleep together, not just for protection, but because communal rest creates psychological and physiological benefits that solitary sleep cannot provide. The subtle sounds of others breathing, the sense of safety that comes from community presence, and the synchronized circadian rhythms of the group all contribute to deeper, more restorative sleep. Modern individualistic cultures have pathologized communal sleeping, creating the expectation that healthy adults should sleep alone. This isolation eliminates the comfort cues that tell the primitive brain that sleep is safe, maintaining a state of subtle vigilance that prevents the complete surrender necessary for deep rest. The lesson extends beyond literal sleeping arrangements to the broader social context of rest. Communities that prioritize collective well-being over individual achievement create cultural conditions that support healthy sleep. Societies that treat rest as a shared value rather than individual weakness develop norms that protect rather than undermine sleep health. The stark simplicity of nomadic sleeping arrangements reveals how modern bedroom complexity often works against rather than for good sleep. The average urban bedroom contains dozens of items and multiple functions that create psychological associations incompatible with rest. The nomad sleeping spaces serve only one purpose: sleep. This single-use dedication creates what sleep specialists call stimulus control, the psychological association between the sleeping environment and rest rather than stimulation. Their simple arrangements eliminate the decision fatigue and environmental overwhelm that can interfere with sleep initiation. Modern bedrooms often function as entertainment centers, offices, storage areas, and social spaces, creating multiple competing associations that can generate anxiety or stimulation when rest is needed. The accumulation of possessions, decorations, and technological devices creates visual and psychological complexity that the relaxation response requires simplicity to achieve. A practical lesson involves creating sleeping spaces that are dedicated solely to rest, eliminating non-sleep activities from the bedroom, and reducing environmental complexity to support rather than interfere with the mental quiet necessary for sleep. Perhaps the most profound difference between nomadic and modern approaches to sleep lies in the relationship with sleep itself. The nomads trust their body's sleep wisdom, while modern populations have learned to distrust and attempt to control their rest through external interventions. This trust eliminates the performance anxiety around sleep that creates chronic insomnia in urban populations. The nomads never worry about whether they will sleep well, how many hours they need, or whether their sleep quality is adequate. They simply create conditions that support natural sleep and trust their biology to do what it evolved to do. Modern sleep culture, by contrast, has created elaborate systems of monitoring, measurement, and intervention that often increase rather than decrease sleep anxiety. Sleep tracking devices, optimization apps, and complex sleep hygiene protocols can create the impression that sleep is a problem to be solved rather than a natural process to be supported. The lesson of trust involves developing confidence in the body's inherent sleep wisdom, creating supportive conditions rather than attempting to control outcomes, and understanding that the attempt to optimize sleep often interferes with the natural processes that create optimal rest. The journey from our current sleep crisis back to the natural rest that the nomads demonstrate is not about returning to pre-modern life or abandoning technological progress. Instead, it requires what sleep researchers call selective traditionalism, consciously choosing to honor biological wisdom while maintaining the benefits of modern knowledge and convenience. This path back to natural sleep begins with understanding that the solutions are not complex or expensive. They don't require new technologies or pharmaceutical breakthroughs. They simply require us to stop doing things that interfere with natural sleep processes and start creating conditions that support the biology we already possess. The first step involves redesigning our evenings to support rather than undermine sleep preparation. This means creating sunset routines that gradually transition the nervous system from daytime activation to nighttime restoration. Just as the nomads naturally slow down as darkness approaches, we must consciously create evening practices that signal to our bodies that rest time is approaching. The modern evening routine might begin 2 hours before intended. Sleep time with a gradual reduction of stimulating activities and environmental inputs. This includes dimming artificial lights, avoiding screens, and engaging in calming activities that activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that prepares the body for sleep. Evening activities should focus on gentle, repetitive, or meditative practices that naturally reduce cortisol and increase relaxation hormones. This might include reading physical books, gentle stretching or yoga, meditation or prayer, creative activities like drawing or knitting, or simply sitting quietly and reflecting on the day. The key principle is gradual transition rather than abrupt change. Just as the desert's twilight slowly deepens into full darkness, our evening routines should gradually guide us from the activity of day toward the rest of night. Modern bedrooms must be transformed from multi-purpose spaces into dedicated sleep sanctuaries that support rather than interfere with rest. This transformation begins with removing anything that doesn't directly support sleep: electronic devices, work materials, exercise equipment, and excess possessions that create visual and psychological clutter. The sleep sanctuary should be as dark as possible during sleeping hours. This may require blackout curtains, eye masks, or other tools to eliminate artificial light sources. Even small amounts of light can disrupt melatonin production and fragment sleep cycles. Temperature control should prioritize the natural cooling that supports sleep initiation. Bedrooms should be cooler than daytime living spaces, typically between 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Natural materials for bedding and sleepwear support thermoregulation better than synthetic alternatives. Air quality deserves attention as well. Poor air quality can cause respiratory irritation that disrupts sleep. Opening windows when possible, using air purifiers, and avoiding chemical products in the bedroom can improve the breathing that is essential for restorative rest. Sound management requires finding the balance between the harmful noise pollution of urban environments and the beneficial background sounds that signal safety. White noise machines, earplugs, or nature sounds can mask disruptive noises while providing the gentle acoustic backdrop that supports sleep. Perhaps the most important intervention involves rebuilding the natural circadian rhythms that govern healthy sleep-wake cycles. This requires consistent daily exposure to bright light in the morning and throughout the day, combined with protection from artificial light in the evening. Morning light exposure, ideally from natural sunlight, serves as the primary signal that regulates circadian timing. Even 15 minutes of bright morning light can significantly improve nighttime sleep quality. For those in climates or situations where natural morning light is limited, light therapy devices can provide the necessary photons to maintain healthy rhythms. Daytime light exposure should be as bright and full spectrum as possible. Working near windows, taking breaks outdoors, and maximizing natural light throughout the day help maintain the strong circadian signals that support evening sleepiness. Evening light management becomes equally important. Reducing overall light levels after sunset, using warm-colored lighting instead of cool or blue-tinted lights. For those whose work schedules require evening screen use, blue light filtering glasses or screen filters can reduce the most disruptive wavelengths while still allowing necessary activities. The Nomad's simple, natural diet supports their excellent sleep in ways that modern processed foods often undermine. Evening eating patterns, in particular, can significantly affect sleep quality through their impact on blood sugar, digestion, and hormone production. The timing of the last meal matters more than many people realize. Large meals within 3 hours of sleep time can interfere with the natural temperature drop that supports sleep initiation. However, going to bed hungry can also disrupt sleep through blood sugar fluctuations. The ideal evening eating pattern involves a moderate dinner consumed at least 3 hours before sleep, followed by a small, sleep-supporting snack if needed closer to bedtime. Foods that support sleep include those rich in tryptophan, magnesium, and complex carbohydrates that support serotonin production. Caffeine management requires understanding that this stimulant can affect sleep even when consumed many hours before bedtime. Individual sensitivity varies, but most people benefit from avoiding caffeine after 2 p.m. to prevent interference with evening sleepiness. Alcohol, despite its initial sedating effects, consistently disrupts sleep architecture and reduces sleep quality. While moderate alcohol consumption may help with sleep initiation, it typically causes sleep fragmentation and reduces the deep sleep that is most restorative. The Nomad's physically active lifestyle supports their excellent sleep through multiple mechanisms that sedentary modern life disrupts. Regular physical activity improves sleep quality, reduces sleep onset time, and increases the amount of deep sleep. However, the timing and intensity of exercise matter significantly for sleep. Vigorous exercise within 4 hours of bedtime can be stimulating rather than sleep-promoting, raising core body temperature and stress hormones in ways that interfere with sleep initiation. The ideal exercise pattern for sleep involves regular moderate activity throughout the day, with more intense exercise completed at least 4 hours before intended sleep time. Even gentle movement like walking can significantly improve sleep quality when practiced consistently. Morning exercise deserves special mention for its circadian benefits. Physical activity in the morning, especially outdoors, provides both the light exposure and physiological stimulation that help maintain strong sleep-wake rhythms. Perhaps most importantly, improving sleep requires changing our psychological relationship with rest itself. A nomad's trust in their body's sleep wisdom contrasts sharply with the anxiety and control-seeking that characterizes modern sleep struggles. Developing a healthier sleep psychology means releasing the need to perfect or optimize sleep and instead focusing on creating supportive conditions while trusting the body's natural processes. This involves accepting that some night-to-night variation in sleep is normal, and that attempting to control every aspect of sleep often creates the anxiety that prevents rest. Sleep hygiene practices should be viewed as gentle supports rather than rigid requirements. The goal is to create conditions that make good sleep more likely, not to guarantee perfect rest through perfect adherence to rules. Mindfulness and relaxation practices can be particularly helpful for those whose minds remain active when their bodies are ready for rest. Simple meditation techniques, progressive muscle relaxation, or gentle breathing exercises can help quiet mental activity that interferes with sleep initiation. In a small clinic in Tucson, Arizona, Dr. Sarah Chun has made a remarkable transformation. The same sleep specialist we encountered earlier, struggling with her own insomnia while treating others with similar problems, has become a pioneer in what she calls ancestral sleep medicine, an approach that combines modern, scientific understanding with the sleep wisdom that traditional populations have maintained for millennia. 6 months ago, Dr. Chun made a radical decision. Frustrated by the limitations of conventional sleep treatments and her own persistent insomnia, she began implementing the principles she had learned from studying traditional desert populations. The results were so dramatic, both for herself and her patients, that she has completely redesigned her practice around what she terms biological sleep restoration. Dr. Chun's new approach begins not with medications or complex sleep studies, but with what she calls sleep environment archaeology, carefully examining and modifying the conditions that surround sleep. Her patients work with sleep environment specialists to create bedrooms that support rather than interfere with natural sleep processes. The results have been extraordinary. Patients who failed to respond to conventional treatments, medications, cognitive behavioral therapy, and advanced sleep technologies often experience dramatic improvements within weeks of implementing ancestral sleep principles. We were treating sleep as a medical problem that required medical solutions, Dr. Chun explains to colleagues. But for most people, insomnia is not a disease. It's a natural response to unnatural conditions. When we restore natural conditions, natural sleep returns. Her success stories include executives who eliminated chronic insomnia by redesigning their evening routines, teenagers who overcame sleep disorders by managing light exposure, and elderly patients who rediscovered deep sleep by changing their sleeping environments. Inspired by the Nomad's communal approach to sleep, Dr. Chun has also pioneered sleep community programs that address the social isolation that contributes to modern sleep problems. These programs bring together people struggling with sleep issues to create supportive communities that practice healthy sleep habits together. The programs include group education about natural sleep principles, community evening activities that replace individual screen time with social connection, and support networks that encourage consistent sleep practices. Participants report not only improved sleep, but also reduced anxiety, stronger social connections, and better overall well-being. The community approach addresses something that individual treatment often misses. Sleep is naturally a social activity, and healing sleep problems often requires restoring the social context that supports natural rest. Dr. Chun's influence has extended beyond her clinic to the corporate world, where she consults with companies seeking to address employees' sleep problems that affect productivity, health, and safety. Her workplace sleep wellness programs focus on creating organizational cultures that support rather than undermine employee sleep health. These programs include education about the importance of sleep for performance and health, policies that protect employee rest time, modifications to workplace lighting and schedules that support natural circadian rhythms, and the creation of quiet spaces where employees can practice relaxation techniques.